entertain your thoughts and feelings until we're done playing.
For once, Bill, I'm on Donald's side.
I'm really curious for which one it is Donald. I can't wait for another fucking surprise.
Yeah, no, fuck that, Joe. I don't think you'll be able to function. You know, you do realize there's still the Levitt Bridge and many more trainers to get XP off of, right? Calm your titties.
Okay, calm down. I was just trying to make a point. Maybe you should train up Mandy more or hurry up and catch your mystery Pokemon so we can add more depth to the team. I'm not seeing much cooking except for you just standing at it.
Okay, stop your big
Rock, but it will literally get drawn a new one against Misty Star.
Okay, both of you guys, shut the fuck up. Barack, you don't need to explain something so simple to Joe. His demented and senile ass still wouldn't get it. Hey, Joe, stop busting a fucking nut every time we talk about Charnelian. Holy shit.
You're acting like this Charizard line is a regular Pokemon's evolution line. We're talking about the greatest Pokemon line of all time, and the greatest Pokemon of all time is Charizard. Put some respect on his fucking name.
Donald, just let it go. Just let him be.
All right, fine. By the way, Barack, I'll finally be able to get that magic card you were speaking of.
Good shit, Donald. It'll be nice to add more depth to the team. It's much needed for sure.
Depth to the team? What fucking depth? This dog shit of a Pokemon can only use Splash. Great fucking depth if you ask me, Barack.
Shut the fuck up, you demented old man.
I said earlier, magic cards are so fucking useless. All it does is fucking flop around. Just like your presidency with a huge flop.
Fuck you, Donald. At least I didn't get a piece more time than Joe following up the stairs to the airport one. You're not feeling bad.
Okay, both of you guys calm the fuck down. When are you going to catch your Pokemon Donald?
Perfect timing, Joe. I'm actually going to catch it right now.
Okay, see you.
Fuck that!
Seriously, Donald. Now I understand why you should have been like this. But make no fucking mistake. You're certainly no fucking kid. I like the Maduro addition to our team, though, so I can't complain.
Of course you can't fucking complain. Nico Ron is such a fucking beast.
Holy shit, I'm losing my fucking brain cells right now. Another fucking Pokemon that won't be fucking trained. Another fucking Pokemon that has a weakness for water. Another fucking Pokemon that's just going to sit there being useless until way later in this fucking game. Honestly, do you guys like to make my fucking life harder with the amount of useless Pokemon we have on the fucking team?
Shut the fuck up, Joe. You can't lose any brain cells if you don't have any left. Besides, you wouldn't know a fucking thing about great things taking time. Trust the fucking process, bitch. I promise you that Nido King will be one of the best Pokemon on our team by far.
Donald, I agree with you about Nidoking being one of the best on our team, but I simply cannot agree with the name you just gave it. King Don. Like, in what fucking world do you think fucking does? What kind of delusional asshole are you doing?
Not delusional, Barack. This is real life. King Donald everywhere. Watch the Red Mountain Movement. King Donald continues to dominate.
We'll see about that, Donald. Are you actually going to switch train Magikarp and Nico and like Barack and I switch train Mink? Or are you going to take the easy way out?
Because Mountain Movement can be as fucking annoying as you goddamn liberals, I'm not going to switch trains. I've already done so fucking much today. You two should fucking switch train, not me.
Oh, look at this, America. Once again, this is another prime example of us doing all the fucking work and Fat Man's Donald taking all the goddamn credit. I'm not surprised one fucking bit.
Go ahead and fight about it, Barack. I'm getting the job done. You can't possibly bitch about that. But then again, you liberals bitch about everything else. So I'm not surprised.
It's okay, just ignore dumbass Donald Barack. Since next time it's my turn to play, I'll just switch train the door and Magikarp a bit before we actually play. I'll clean up Donald's mess. Nothing new there. Just like how I had to clean up his fucking mess with the president.
Haha, this was a good shit.
I'm not fucking surprised that the liberals are sucking each other off right now. I'm dominating in Pokemon. Liberals, bitch. I dominated during my presidency. You liberals, bitch. Holy shit, I just can't fucking win when it comes to you two, huh?
Well, Donald, you're literally avoiding doing any of the work when it comes to Pokemon. And you literally did no fucking work in your presidency. Honestly, the delusion that you think this...
For 10 years in this game, you have some fucking issues, Joe. Some serious ones that you need to fucking get fixed.
Seriously, Joe, I don't always go against you, but I'm with Donald on this one. That is a serious fucking issue that you need to get fixed. Like, what the fuck is going through your mind? And what the fuck is wrong with you? Have you ever thought about that?
And have you ever thought about who you're married to, who you're sleeping with? Then tell Michael, what's his fucking name, Barack?
Fuck you, Joe. I wouldn't be talking. Maybe you should check up on Jill since she's in her advanced stages of decomposition.
Okay, hold on, Barack. That's my fucking joke. What you said is 100% true, but don't take my fucking joke. Can we just fucking calm down so I can get past Mount Moon? It's already annoying enough having to go through this bullshit, but to hear you two bicker makes the matter even worse.
Shut the fuck up, John. Mount Moon isn't hard to get through if you're just spamming repel, using just Charmeleon and avoiding trans left and right. You are literally taking the easiest road and making Barack and I do all the fucking work.
Yeah, for real, Donald. I agree with Jill on this. That being said, let's try to end our session on a good fucking note. We don't always have to do argue first and bicker at each other like boys.
That's right, Barack. Just let Dominant Donald cook. I've gone through at least 15 trainers. I got both Magikarp and Nidoran, and now I'm getting us through Mount Moon. Let me cook bitches.
I will say, Donald, even though I don't like how you're not using the other Pokemon as much, at least you kept on your promise. I believe I'm not using potions. Unlike Obama's bitch ass.
You like to say the old goofball?
You know what? I will take the higher road so we don't have any more fucking arguments. Donald, you are indeed cooking as Joe said, so keep that shit up.
By the way, boys, you wanted me to train Nancy. Well, here you fucking go. Let's see the cook.
It's about goddamn time. I know I get hard watching Charmeleon, but I was telling you Sweet Loki just seeing Donald's fan member. It's nice to see some variety.
Yeah, for real, Joe. I want to erase my memory of what you just said about Charmeleon and the two of right. It's nice to see variety.
This battle will go to show why you didn't even spam. Growl in the gym. Battle against Brock, by the way. You should have just listened to me.
Okay, shut the fuck up, Joe. Are you having a hard time completing your sentences now? Is your brain in the shit again? Stop complaining about how Barack defeated the first gym. We got the gym back, and that's all that fucking matters.
Okay, you're right, Daddy. I'm sorry, Daddy, that you beat me so badly.
Jesus fucking Christ. Donald, Joe's brain went to shit. We need to carry for the rest of the gameplay so he'll be okay when it's his turn to play next.
Okay, I got you, Barack. Just watch how Dominant Donald goes.
Both of you shut the fuck up. I can call Donald Daddy whenever the hell I want.
What the
That does
fuck?
not mean that my brain went to shit. Look how Mason will one-shot this big-ass Onyx, by the way, Barack.
Okay, Joe. Call me demented, saggy ass titties, Joe. Mankey is 2 levels higher than Onyx. Brock's Onyx was level 14, while our Mankey was level 9 at the time. It's not the same thing. I secured us to win, so just accept how I did things.
God damn you guys. You guys make it so much harder to play a quiz game like Pokemon with your constant bullshit bickering. Can you just let me cook with minimal distractions?
Holy shit, how delusional are you, Donald? You do realize you're the main reason for our bickering? You're always throwing fuel into the fucking fire, for fuck's sake.
Okay, let's fucking calm down then. Joe, just let it go. Donald, if it helps you feel better, then we will stop bickering, okay?
I don't ask much from you fucking liberals, but some peace and quiet is all I ask. Thank you, Barack, for taking the higher road and stopping your bickering with Joe.
Jesus fucking Christ, Donald. Here we go again. I've been trying to watch you cook, but I'm not seeing anything. You say that it's because of Barack and I that you cannot cook as much as you want, but you're literally fucking avoiding trainers left and right, you obese pussy.
Shut the fuck up, you wrinkly old hag. If you're so butthurt about me skipping trainers, then why don't you go back to battle them yourself?
Maybe I will do that when we play next time you prove.
Okay, Joe, calm the fuck down. I know I got a little annoyed too with Donald skipping trainers, but don't waste our fucking time by you going back to battle them. We'll be fine regardless whether we skip the trainers here and there.
Seriously, Barack? Are you seriously going to defend this bitch's gameplay? Skipping trainers, using just Charmeleon, and using repels, like honestly, Barack. You know I trust Charmeleon, this is just bullshit.
When you say disgusting shit like that, Joe, you give me no choice to decide with Donald. Just stop your bickering and let Dominant Donald cook for fuck's sake.
Holy shit, Barack, I never thought you'd say to let Dominant Donald cook. Good shit, Obama. This is the first thing you said right in a long fucking time, believe me.
Well, I'm going to take that compliment, Donald, because I have taken the high road.
See, you beat the main guy in this fucking country. You've been avoiding something left and right. Start cooking down.
Challenge? Seriously? Super Nerd Miguel is a fucking challenge? Holy fucking shit, Joe. If I was able to beat the existing trainers, acquire Magikarp and Nidoran, and navigate my way through Mount Moon, then why the fuck would Super Nerd Miguel be the ultimate champion?
Joe, you have to admit that Donald has done a fuck ton during his turn of playing this emulator. He never used the potion, and none of our Pokemon trained it. You gotta give him credit.
Fine, I'll give him credit, but let's not just dismiss the fact how he didn't train any of our other fucking Pokemon and avoided trainers. I will give him credit that there's a fucking asterisk on this shit for sure.
Like hell, there's an asterisk on this shit. Get the stupid hating ass out of here, Joe. How the fuck do you mean forgetting your favorite saying? It's not about how you win, but rather getting the win itself. But I'm not surprised if you don't remember that, because of course you're in your advanced skater.
Hey, Joe,
What Barack?
apologize to Donald right now. He played exceptionally well, regardless of how you want to look at it. I won't allow this bullshit, Joe. Apologize to him right now.
Fine. I'm sorry, Donald, for hating on your game plan. Although I would have done some things, I will admit that you did an exceptional job of not allowing our Pokemon to think. You definitely played well, and I'm sorry for criticizing you for it. Can you forgive me?
Joe, of course I can forgive you. I just want us to not argue among ourselves. I want us to do the best we can so we can become Pokemon masters, because that's our ultimate goal. Also, Barack, thank you for being the mediator throughout. I really do appreciate it.
No problem, Donald. I'm just glad that we're all on the same page before it's Joe's turn to play the game. Are we done for today, by the way?
Unfortunately, I have to go Barack. Pelosi keeps bugging me about signing some fucking documents, so I have to go do that and then head to bed.
Jesus fucking Christ. I remember Pelosi did that. It's all good though, Joe. I have to go as well. I have a golf event that I'm attending, so I'll be busy as well. That being said, I can hop on tomorrow, though.
Sounds good, guys. Once again, great fucking time I had playing with you guys. Just know that we're one step closer to becoming Pokemon masters.
Definitely, Barack. Let's see some of that same cooking we saw earlier, Joe, for you next time up.
Oh, don't worry about me, boys. I promise that I'll try my best. That being said, I have to go now, so I'll talk to you guys later.
Peace out, guys. Until next time.
See you guys next time. Should be a fun one.
All right, boys, you ready to continue our Fire Red playthrough?
Definitely, Joe. Let's see if you can keep up your good play.
curious to see how this goes.
By the way, guys, I trained our Pokemon up a bit since. Since Donald only wanted to train Chameleon.
Screw you, Joe. You loved how I played last time. I mean, you remember your reaction to Charmander evolving?
Okay, hold on, Joe. I got something to confess.
What is it, Barack?
I don't want Manchester on the team anymore.
Are you
Decided to
serious?
pop ups instead, since we get that ice typing as well. Besides, Manchester is a pain to train, I bet.
Are you fucking serious, Barack? You made me train that useless floppy piece of shit only for you to tell me you don't want it anymore?
I 100% agree with you, Joe. Brock, that's fucked up and you know it.
Guys, I'm sorry. I wasn't speaking forgive me, but I guarantee that lockups will be much better. I thought about the fact how Gary doesn't have a good special attack in this game. I'm sorry, Joe. Will you forgive me?
Only if you call me daddy.
Jesus fucking Christ, Joe. Pay attention to the fucking rival battle before you embarrass this old hag.
Okay, calm the fuck down. I literally trained our team up. Don't disrespect me.
Okay, so let's do your thing, Joe. By the way, how far do you plan on progressing today?
I plan on going through the Nugget Bridge and all the way through. And then I plan on challenging Misty today as well. That's the way I'm going to do it.
Hold on, Sleepy Joe. Don't get too ahead of yourself. You know good and damn well that you're seeking out ass candy with so many traders and then challenge Biscuit. Calm the fuck down and let the rock challenge her next time we play.
I agree with Dr. Joe. I know how you're doing it, and I'm not long enough for you to take on this team. Trust us and let us do our thing.
Fuck you both.
Let's do a best 2 out of 3 vote when you're done with the traders and Bill so we can see where your brain is at.
That's actually a smart idea, Donald. I didn't know you were capable of being smart.
Shut the fuck up, Barack. I'm way smarter than you believe me.
Okay, both of you guys calm your nipples. Donald, I will take you up on that proposal. In the meantime, just enjoy my dominance of this fucking game.
We'll see about that, Joe. By the way, what's your strategy with regards to training our team up?
I think it's pretty simple. Even though I get hard as fuck over Charmander, he's pretty clear that he can't really do shit against Misty. I'm going to have the door and the balls and have a carry against Misty.
Honestly, Joe, other than your Charmander, guarantee you that he will lead our team to success.
Not a bad idea, Joe. What about Mankey, though?
I don't think Mankey will really serve much of a purpose here, Barack. If it was a primate, that would be a different story. But Mankey is literally one water pulse away from being one shot.
Okay, I need to launch an official investigation, you guys.
What the fuck are you talking about, Donald? Why?
Joe is playing and thinking so damn well that I'm officially suspicious that he forced someone to take his shitty-ass brain away from someone's smart brain.
Shut the fuck up, you David McDonald eating ass fuck. I told you before, let Papa Joe do this fucking thing.
Donald, I'm on Joe's side with this. If he's playing well, he'd be a fucking good teammate and supporter.
Oh, fuck!
He literally told Gary a fucking new one. He saw his entire fucking team. Good shit, Joe. I'm proud of you.
Thanks, Barack. I appreciate it. But Donald, did you just fucking bust a nut? What the fuck is going on?
Fuck! The Doran is such a fucking beast that grew up. Jesus fucking Christ, this is amazing.
Okay, you know what? Fuck it. Why do you two have to bust the fucking nut every time you say the Pokemon is all? Like, holy shit, this is a fucking kids game, for fuck's sake.
Shut the fuck up, Barack. Make you feel the same way about me, bitch.
Don't be yelling for something about me. You're only going to be hot dogs saying you're having an ass.
Okay, I can't believe I'm about to be the meeting. You guys in the tech down and looking for the same thing.
You must know what I'm feeling when I tell you to win the ball. That's amazing.
Fuck yes, man, you're not too positive. I felt those same exact feelings with Charmander involved.
Okay, this is the third straight time in a row in which you two have just constantly sucked each other off. I'm tired of this fucking bullshit from you two. Either keep this shit in the fucking bedroom or I'm fucking leaving this goddamn phone.
Holy shit, Barack, can you fucking lighten up? It's called a fucking joke. But you know what's not a fucking joke? Man, chill.
Don't you fucking dare say anything about my husband. I mean, wife.
Well, what was that Barack?
Fuck you both. You know, just play the fucking game for fuck's sake.
You literally not see me fucking cooking. How are you still doing the bitch even when I'm doing well? You're sounding like fat ass Donald now.
Shut the fuck up, Joe. Don't start shit talking us now. You can't fucking manage to do that and play Pokemon at the same time. Your brain will literally go to shit.
I can confirm this, Donald. This brain will go to shit. Just focus on the trainers, Joe. It's for the best.
I can't believe I'm being told what to do at my advanced fucking age. I'm playing better than both you and Donald combined, so go fuck yourself.
You think you're playing better than us, Joe? Just let your gameplay do the talking, bitch.
Holy fucking shit. You're not fucking see me wrecking every fucking trainer.
Okay. Let's fucking calm down, Joe. We're sorry to see the thing.
God fucking damn, you two are making things harder than they need to be. I want an apology, Donald. You've been completely unfair to me this entire fucking time, even though I've been playing well.
Joe's right, Donald. Apologize to the right now.
Fine, Joe. I'm sorry for bashing your gameplay, even though you've been doing well.
Well, Joe.
Jesus fucking Christ! Not her again. Look at those fucking legs, and her hair, and her...
Calm your fucking shit, you demented old man. How many times do I have to tell you that this behavior is not okay?
You know what, Barack? Just let it be.
What the fuck are you talking about, Donald? Why?
He's a fucking lost cause at this point. After all, his wife is in the advanced stages of decomposition, so that's probably why he's sipping over 10-year-old girls.
Shut the fuck up, Donald. Your wife would be in the latter stages of decomposition if she didn't put on 1 million pounds of makeup as well as receiving facial transplant surgeries every fucking week.
For fuck's sake, you guys, we need to prove to the world that the three of us can have fun playing a game and not constantly bicker. Can we just be supportive of each other for once?
Be supportive of each other. Barack, you dumb bitch. You always call me out for simping on that beautiful young lady.
If you think that fucking behavior is okay, then you need to get fucking help still. Jesus fucking Christ, I don't know how that goes to the fucking president of the United States.
I always think the same fucking thing, Barack. Good shit.
Shut the fuck up, you orange brown, you're not much better.
Fuck you too, then.
Are you guys literally watching me once again? Papa Joe destroys the trainer. Oh, I hope to see her again somewhere.
Joe, please cease to use the poison sting.
Shut the fuck up, Barack. I know what I'm fucking doing. I've literally done almost everything for our fucking team. The biggest liability on this team is either you or Donald, that's for sure.
Well, it's not me, so it's definitely Barack. By the way, Joe, I know I've been shitting on you all day, but I have to say, you're doing a great job training Nidorino. Just an FYI, remember to evolve Nidorino at level 22 when the time comes so Nidoking can learn Scratch.
You know what, Donald? I appreciate that tip. I know I stick my chest out saying I'm the Pokemon master, but even after that, the Nidoking learns Scratch at level 22. Thanks, Donald. I really do mean that.
You see that, Barack? If it wasn't for your negative ass, we'd always be in a good mood and we wouldn't always be bickering. It's because of you that our group is like this bitch.
I'm losing fucking brain cells. Remember the fucking time I took a fucking break from you two because of your constant bickering? What the fuck happened in 7 days to die, huh? You came fucking crying to me, you 400-pound Cheeto.
I'm sorry, Barack, but that was the past. We're changed now. Now apologize to Donald for calling him a 400-pound Cheeto. That kind of negativity is not fucking needed in the fucking group.
Shut the fuck up, Joe. What if you're fucking living with Donald? I swear to fucking God, with the amount of dick adding that you two do, it's just ridiculous.
It's It's okay, Joe, don't respond to that. It's probably because Barack doesn't have an active sex life. It's illegal. We'll take the high road and calm the situation down.
All right, how about a proposal then? Let's just fucking focus on Pokemon if that's okay with you too.
That's fine with me. That's what I've been wanting to focus on instead of all this other shit. What about you, Donald?
Yeah, that's fine with me too. Let's just have fun playing Pokemon, boys.
Are you guys proud of me? I didn't bust enough from seeing that girl this time.
Jesus fucking Christ, Joe. So much for wanting to talk about just Pokemon. And what do you mean you didn't bust a nut this time?
I think we both know what that means, Donald. Let's not get into that shit. It's just another accident waiting to happen.
Okay, I was just joking. Take a fucking joke for fuck's sake.
Yeah, no, fuck that, Joe. We all know good and damn well that you are not fucking joking. The amount of times that you've mentioned getting hard over that same fucking trick is absolutely ridiculous. Can't help. I fucking mean that.
Okay, let's all take a deep breath here. We're not even halfway down with these trainers. If we keep arguing, Joe's brain will be in the pits before he even gets to this.
Shut the fuck up, Barack. I'll have you know that my fucking brain is in.
Calm the fuck down, Joe, and just focus on the damn game, would you?
Don't the fucking interrupt. Big brain fuck.
Yeah, you were saying, Joe?
My brain is perfectly intact, so fuck you both. By the way, I'm going to teach Charmeleon smoke screen so we can use it on that bitch ass Johnny just we had.
Are you fucking stupid, Joe? Charmeleon won't be able to use the smoke screen because it will literally get one shot by a fucking waterfall.
Yeah, I'm a gentleman on this one. I agree with teaching Charmeleon smoke screen, but it won't be able to tank the waterfall. That's the truth.
You guys both don't know what it's like to be a Pokemon after that. Charmeleon can tank the fucking waterfalls, and all we need is at least one smoke screen, and that'll make the difference. Just one.
Okay, I guess we'll have to wait and see. On a good note, though, keep your fucking dominance up. You've been crushing these trainers left and right in a way that has honestly surprised me. Good shit, Joe.
Yeah, the real deal, I'm surprised that you're getting past the Nugget Bridge with little to no trouble. It's honestly impressive to me, too. Maybe we shouldn't call it demented or senile anymore. What do you think, Donald?
Whoa, hold on. Let's not get fucking carried away. Just because I'm impressed now, that can easily change. There's still a ton of trainers left.
I don't even know if I should take your guys' comments as a compliment or not, but that's okay, though. I'll just continue dominating in the future. That being said, I'm going to get the Pokemon Center real quick.
Okay, Joe, how are you feeling for your battle against the Rocket Run?
Rocket Run? What are you talking about?
Here we go.
Just some regular dude who gets you. Shut the fuck up, gentlemen.
Here we fuck
Best to forget small things like this. Why the fuck do you jump over this fucking opportunity to call me demented whenever I have a small mishap? Are you fucking obsessed with me or some shit?
Is that a fucking joke? Why the fuck would I be obsessed with your old ass?
Hey guys, can I be honest here?
What the fuck do you want, Barack?
To answer Bill's question, I think not only are you obsessed with Joe, but I think Bill is also obsessed with you.
Like hell I am.
You just love each other so fucking much that you can't stop talking and roasting each other. That's the definition of a close relationship. So most of you guys shut the fuck up and think about what you say.
Okay, I'll be honest with you, Donald.
Jesus fucking Christ.
I dream about you every fucking night. Ever since you gave me the surprise of Charmander's evolution, I haven't been able to not think of you. You appear in every dream. I think about you all the goddamn time.
Okay, I don't even know if you're fucking joking anymore. Holy shit, Joe. You're on your fucking such shit again. I literally can't with this. Can we change the fucking topic?
I agree with you, Donald. Let's just change the fucking topic then.
Okay, guys, I was just joking. Please don't feel uncomfortable with this. That being said, you guys want me to catch any Pokemon today for our party?
No, I think I'm okay. What about you, Barack?
Yeah, I'm okay too. I think the Pokemon I want will be much later on than this too.
Are you sure you won't fucking change your mind like you did with fucking Magikarp? Are you 100% sure, bitch?
Fuck off, get a little bit more fucking time. And yes, I'm fucking sure get off my dick for fuck's sake.
Unfortunately, Barack, I don't think Joe knows how to get off your fucking dick. Apparently, he needs to get off of lines like holy shit.
What the fuck, Donald? That was such an unnecessary comment. Are you trying to start more silly shit up again?
I mean, if you guys want.
No!
Okay, fine, I was just kidding. At least we're fucking halfway done with these trainers, and then we can battle Misty.
Okay, Joe. How is your brain feeling, though? Do you think you'll be able to handle Misty after you finish off some trainers?
I definitely feel like I can handle Misty, if you know what I mean.
Just because you said that shit, I'll be the one battling Misty next time we fucking play. I think it's for the best anyway. What do you guys think?
I agree with you, Barack. I think there's a less of a chance you fuck up, Barack, because you wouldn't have your brain fucked by 20 trainers beforehand. What are your thoughts, Joe?
I will admit I am getting a little sleepy, so I think it's best if Barack handles Misty. But don't fucking get it twisted. It's not because my brain is going to shit or whatever the hell you two are thinking.
Okay, chill out, Joe. Don't worry about that. You still got so many trainers left, and I don't want you to fuck up now. Surprisingly, you've been doing a really good job.
Okay, but can we be honest here? Why does Barack get to face the gym leaders always? How is that fair to me or even fucking Joe? Battling gym leaders are one of the best things to do in this game, and we can't even fucking do that.
You know what? I'm on Donald's side. That's some bullshit, Barack. You definitely fucking rigged it to go second out of the three of us because you secretly calculated how to just fucking battle the gym leaders while Donald and I do all the fucking dirty work.
Holy fucking shit, you two. First off, I did not fucking rig it, Joe. Stop sounding like Donald.
Fuck you.
Second of all, how the fuck am I supposed to know how much someone wants to do with regards to their turn? Stop your bitching and just accept the fact that I'm facing this seat. I'm sure you guys will get through opportunities as well.
Okay, I got a proposal then, Barack.
Okay, what is it, Donald?
I know how we've been taking turns for the emulator, but I say for the Elite Four. And champions, we just all meet up at your house and play the emulator together. We'll take turns on the different Elite Four members and eventually the champion to ensure that we each get involved in important battles. What do you think?
Holy shit, Donald, that was the best idea I've ever heard coming out of your mouth. Good shit, dude.
I would say that it is a fair and good idea, so I'm down for that. I just have to make sure it's okay with my family for you two to come over then, though.
No worries, Barack, just let us know what they say.
Oh, fuck, are the three of us going to be in one house together? Jesus fucking Christ, I'm doing so many fucking feelings right now.
If you start up with that bullshit again, I'm not fucking inviting you guys over to my place.
No need for an invite at that point, Barack. I wouldn't want to be around Joe's students and senile ass.
Okay, I was just fucking kidding. Please still get permission and invite us, Barack.
Okay, just don't fucking act like that anymore for the rest of our goddamn call.
You got it, Daddy. I mean, Barack.
Jesus fucking Christ.
I will say that, Joe, I like how you're training up Nidorino to a pretty high level, Joe. We'll need that for the battle against Starving. Just remember what Donald said, though. Evolve Nidorino at level 22, so it can run flat.
Wait, what? I have to evolve Nidorino at level 22. No one told me that.
There you have it, Barack. Joe's dimension is kicking in. There's no fucking way that you'll remember to evolve Nidorino at level 22. So make sure you do that when it's your turn to play, for fuck's sake.
Don't worry, Donald. You'll be fine. I'll be sure to evolve Nidorino when it's time to play. In the meantime, let's just make sure that Joe doesn't fuck up any shit.
Shut the fuck up. I'm almost done with these fucking trainers, and you guys are acting like I haven't been cooking a goddamn gourmet meal this whole damn time. You talk about being supportive, but all you two do is talk down on me in every way possible.
Okay, calm the fuck down, you old hag. Ultimately, Barack and I want you to be okay when your brain goes into shit. Don't fucking take it personally.
Okay, Joe, I'll say this in a much nicer way. Regardless of how Donald and I may come off as, we truly do care for your success. Ultimately, your success is our success. And in order for us to become Pokemon Masters, we all need to be on the same page.
Goodbye, Barack. Thanks for saying that in a nice way, unlike bitch-ass Donald.
Bitch, no one should be obligated to fucking coddle you. I mean, you got fucking coddled all your fucking life. And look at where you're at now.
Fuck you, bitch.
Politics for 51 years, and you've been a shitty-ass president for 2 years. This is all because you were fucking coddled.
I've been coddled all my life. Are you fucking serious? I'm not the one who got a fucking small loan for fucking $1 million.
One crisis.
perfection.
Hydrospent eye drops, made with a naturally sourced lubricant that works to attract and retain moisture.
About 100 years into the European settlement of Australia, as the coastline flourished with cities and growing populations, the advanced interior remaining largely unexplored and mysterious. In fact, by then, Indians are nicknamed the gassy land. Finally, in 1860, an expedition set up to make the first southbound crossing of the Australian continent. Unfortunately, they would find out why so much of the hostile interior remains sparsely populated even today. This is their story. As always, your discretion is advised. It might be difficult to imagine, but only 160 years ago, much of the continent of Australia was still uncharted and unexplored. It was still a British colony in the 19th century, and growing with the leaps and bounds on the coast, especially in the south. The state of Victoria, in particular, was booming during Australia's gold rush of the 1850s, when the settlers who all over the world showed up in Australian rich. The vast lands between the coasts, however, was such a mystery that it earned the nickname the Gassy Land. And it wasn't until 1857 that the idea of an expedition to explore was finally offered up. At just 7 years old at the time, the state of Victoria saw in it the opportunity to further its status as Australia's wealthiest and most ambitious settlement. The Max, in partnership with the Royal Society of Florida, which is the state scientific institute, 32-person exploration efforts to observe its expedition being a worthwhile venture. It would end up taking 3 years to analyze it from every angle, but in 1860, Victoria's exploring expedition was formed with the goal of uncovering the secrets of the inland Australia. At the time, parts outside of civilization had certainly been traveled before, but no one had traveled the entire distance south coast to the north, and so the Victorian exploring expedition landed first. The committee then outlined a handful of goals for the expedition, but there were three main objectives. The first was to observe and document poverty, climate, and flora from a scientific perspective. The second was to find areas with abundant grazing land for livestock, and the third was to identify potential routes for an overland telegraph line. In the 3 years of research the expedition committee conducted, it actually spent most of the time building a pool of leading because the members suspended consensus. The process dragged on, vote after vote, underscored how divided the committee was. During this process, there were three top candidates, but a majority wouldn't be reached until just 2 months before the expedition was set to leave. On June 20th, 1860, a vote finally determined it would be. Oddly enough, it wasn't any of the three explorers many were deadlocked on. In fact, their choice was to explore. The leading vote getter was Robert O'Hara Burton, who had no experience in expedition, certainly commanded some navigating. Born in County Galway, Ireland, in 1821, Robert was a capable military who worked as a lieutenant in the Hungarian army. In 1847, he returned to Ireland and became a police officer, and the first landowners was then named Robert's second in command, with his greatest contribution to the expedition because of his use of candles. At the time, candles had only been introduced to Australia 20 years ago. They were a rare commodity, but George worked as a demonstrator in India when the expedition was down and believed that the end was perfect for exploration purposes. He then wrote to the government in 1858 and proposed that the Victoria invest in importing candles, which he offered to handle. George was also somewhat of a foreign traveler and spent time in parts of the Middle East where candles were vital to making the long treks across the desert. Seeing Australia's comparative climate and landscape, he was able to convince the Victorian government to hire him. And while he wasn't necessarily exploring the tradition, he was well known for his experience traveling through unknown and unsettled areas. After that, the committee then added Englishman William John Wills as third in command. William came to Australia in 1852 and worked as a shepherd with his brother before taking a keen interest in service in 1855. Then, the last two officers were German, Drs. Hermann Becker and Woodward Becker, who handled the Royal Society's orders in terms of science. After the officers were decided, the call went out for working hands, and the expedition received applications from 700 men who could join. The expedition leader Robert then performed a haphazard massacre with 300 of them before hiring only the people who needed, leaving behind many who bring skill to relevant knowledge to the expedition. With the party set, its members met in Melbourne for rifle training, and all schools taught them how to properly care for camels. During their visit, the city buzzed with excitement of the expedition's members. The explorers were treated to farewell dinners and special ceremonies at local churches, and followed with men. Conflicts arose early and often, mostly involved alcohol. 2 men were even removed from the expedition the day before the sent for drunkenness, and on August 20th, 1860, the actual departure date, Robert let another man go for the same infraction. Then, seeing that they were short 3 members, he wanted to hire 3 random men on the spot who would just come in with the suspected. On the day of the departure, around 15,000 people showed up at Borough Park in Melbourne to see them off and to witness history, or just to see what a camel looked like in real life. Robert and his men gave Melbourne plenty to look at, too. This expedition was still the most expensive ever held in Australia, and this was immediately apparent. The group of just 19 expedition members had wagons and carts filled with 20 tons of supplies, including 2 years' worth of food rations, 6 tons of firewood, and 50 gallons of rum. That last item of the list wasn't just for men, it was for the camels. According to George, rum was necessary to keep tight camels moving and warm them from the inside during winter months. Whatever the case, at 4 o'clock that afternoon, the mayor of Melbourne gave a farewell speech. And then he reminded the men of their duties, suffering trials and tribulations, exploration, and pursuit of knowledge, and led the crowd to 3 cheers as the wagon wheels started turning. The launch, however, was total chaos. First, one of the camels managed to escape its handler and come up to the crowd at full speed. This then spooked the horse, which threw its female rider off and broke her leg. One of the wagons needed to get its full rotation of the wheel before broken down. 2 bears 3 months before they were broken and useless. Things were so bad that Robert stopped his whole lap outside Melbourne and ordered the team to make camp for them. This brief and disastrous departure revealed a significant issue none of the men could solve. The heat during summer months in North America are actually the coldest of Australia's winter, and all the conditions of safety were plagued by frigid conditions. Camels are renowned for their adaptability both ends of the temperature spectrum, but they don't live on the bud. And unfortunately, those living in Melbourne were a sloppy mess, and camels struggled to maintain their footing. As you might imagine, this was also a problem for the horse-drawn wagons, whose wheels were constantly bogged down as well. In fact, this ended up being such a problem that on the morning of the expedition, the second day, Robert decided to leave the wagon behind and told the driver to do their best to catch up with the rest of the party as fast as possible. But unfortunately, well, it would take 20 days before this happened. By September arrived, so not even a month into their travels, the expedition fell so far behind that Robert felt he had no other choice but to reduce his number. He told some of the men to remain behind until he sent them back again, but he never had any intention of doing that. It was just a ruse to lighten the load. To make up for the lost work, Robert told the scientists that they were expected to prioritize the work that was meant to task them perform. Then, if there was any free time in between traveling work, they could perform their scientific duties as outlined by the Royal Society. More or less, he was asking them to admit their entire purpose for being part of the expedition. Additionally, he ordered that the scientists make no longer like horses or legs, they must walk. Now, the expedition left Melbourne with 27 camels and 22 horses, but how they were used was puzzling. George insisted that the camels traveled without a supply of other riders, so they could be fresh for the latter half of the expedition. Many of the horses were both wagons, but the ones that weren't were perfectly good to ride, yet Robert forbid the 2 doctors who were the oldest men part of the rider. He also limited personal items to only 30 pounds each in order for everyone to carry their own belongings instead of putting them on the wagons. If all of these changes sound ridiculous, it's because they were simply another way that Robert reduced his numbers controlling scientists would leave the expedition. Despite his orders to be Victorian government of the Royal Society, Robert wanted to care for reason and purpose, including immortality, he believed would not be the first to bond to stop the cell. These new orders obviously did not meet the intent to Robert and George. From the beginning, they had a critical relationship. Robert's particular issue with George involved the camels. George had insisted on carrying the steam of the camels. Real problems is many of the crew couldn't resist on taking them. And the final straw for the relationship was their disagreement on how to transport the camels across the Darling River. George believed the camels should be taken to the other side of the river in small, flat-bottomed boats, but they didn't have a big enough for the job. Robert pressed this point as the expedition leader. He had to make a decision since they were already so far behind. While George protested, Robert summoned William the task of leading into the camels into the river and onto the opposite bank. As this occurred, George committed unforgivable sins questioning Robert's authority. There was already no coming back from that, but before Robert could leave George's position, George resigned first. Then, witnessing how Robert treated George with such disrespect for his area of expertise, Dr. Beckler also resigned. Then, with those 2 resignations, George placed Robert promoted William to his new second command. A few weeks later, on September 23rd, the expedition reached Canadian. which at the time was a town of just 6 shafts from the last civilization before entering the known. Incredibly, the distance between Melbourne and Sydney was traveled off by railway, which could complete a one-way trip in only 2 weeks. The expedition, on the other hand, was so behind that it was in its second month when they finally reached town. Either way, while there, Robert was in the depot, and he was in town as an expedition headquarters of sorts. And despite being ordered by the Royal Society to keep the party intact, Robert split the expedition up once again and believed that a reduction in numbers would move things along faster. The fittest men and animals were then ordered to join him on the journey through the area to Cooper Creek, while the rest were told to remain behind with most of their supplies and wagons. It was also during the expedition's 5-day stay in India that Robert met a local man named William Robert to take them 200 miles to Colorado Swamp. Robert agreed to this, and then him, Wright, and the 6 men came to join him during more bad weather away from the creek, but they did so in a good time. It took just 10 days to travel the distance to the swamp, and it seemed that Robert believed that fuel meant faster travel was correct. This might have been a mistake, because Wright's navigational skills ended up being such an asset on this leg of the journey that Robert became a full-fledged member of the expedition, and made Wright his third in command. Once they reached Colorado Swamp, Robert told the men about what was next. They could either return to the navy with Wright or accompany Robert onward. By then, things were going so smoothly since leaving the navy that all of the conflicts would be gone. So, after a brief stay in the swamp, Wright began to return back to the navy alone. Before leaving, he was given orders to bring supplies and wagons to Cooper Creek with the rest of them. Apparently, though, when Wright asked Robert when to return, the only answer he would get was soon. Another several weeks later, November 20th, they stopped to camp just shy of Cooper Creek and spent 2 weeks exploring the area. Another camp was then established, and Robert waited on Wright for 10 days with no sign of him. His patience had run out by December 16th, so he selected Wills, John King, and Charlie Gray to continue on with him, while the other men were ordered to remain near Cooper Creek. One of those men, a man named William Gray, was put in charge of what supplies they still had. And before they left, Robert told Gray to take 3 months for them to return. If they didn't show back by then, the group would head back to Williams, and with them, the final 4 men continued onward. When was the last time you felt like this? Find that feeling with key attention.
This is the Tempur-Pedic Boots mattress, and it's designed to help you feel cool, so you're more sweating all night. You're keeping out the covers or blasting the air conditioning because only the Tempur.
For Robert, Wills, John, and Charlie, this was the final leg of their journey. Their target was the Gulf of Carpentaria. They successfully made there the expedition was complete, at least in Robert's eyes, and made cement their place in Australia's history books. To do that, though, they have to earn it by crossing the Stony Desert. As the name implies, the Stony Desert is Europe's largest yet of rocks and stones, which originate from desert sandstone. Over blending, the sandstone is broken down into the hardest portion behind, which creates a signature uneven rocky terrain. Robert and the other men were pleasantly surprised when they found that the desert wasn't nearly as expansive as they once thought. This gave the 4 men a false sense of confidence in the force was behind them. But then, as December 10th of January 1861, the expedition reached mountain ranges that pushed them to their limit. The camels in particular were having a difficult time with the steep ground, and that didn't change on the other side of the mountains either. Then, to arrive at the west, transformed the landscape of the black soil plains near the Gulf. This made the best of the terrain solid, while the rest was covered in floodwaters. Very quickly, negotiating all of this had become incredibly challenging, and the camels struggled to continue. So, once again, Robert lost his patience with how things were going and decided to make camp in one of the few dry areas they could find. He then split the party up again, and ordered John and Charlie to remain at the camp with the camp, while he and Will went to the coast to finish the expedition. And incredibly, after splitting off, after just 15 months, they started to smell the ocean air. This meant that everything they worked for and all the travel was about to come to an end. They then continued on a little further, and then they came upon the first of thousands of mangrove trees line the coast. Mangrove trees are dense, tangled roots and branches that grow out of water. So to travel through them, not only do you have to wade through the water, it's impossible nets and branches that are step. Not to mention whatever is waiting in the water, like the crocodiles that are abundant in northern Australia. Essentially, this made traveling through the mangrove trees impossible, and in the end, they ended up all that distance, only to turn back to the campsite without ever having to see the coast. But, even more incredibly, this would be the least of their worries. In the days that followed, the 4 men packed up their camp absolutely got the return trip to Melbourne underway. Rain continues to plague through much of lunch. You can never tell how far they'll be able to travel on any given day until the weather doesn't know. Some days it's only a mile or something, on other days they were nowhere at all. After another full month, they don't reach the mountain rain. They did the winds, yes, and torn for days, straight inside a small place for shelter. They remained firewood with all the soggy units to the most became small by dogs working food on. I'm skeptical of weeks behind what they should have been. They put on death and should be just like the mountains. One night in late March, Charlie killed a snake that was 8 feet long with one of his spurs. The four men devoured it, and while they should have gone to bed that night satisfied, Robert was an egg as he suffered from dysentery. This is a condition that's caused by drinking water or food that's been contaminated by bacteria or parasites, and it's highly contagious. The symptoms of dysentery consist of what we call food poisoning vague. Sufferers often have diarrhea, fever, vomiting, and stomach pain, and in people with coughing-like acute symptoms, it can be deadly. For someone of Robert's fitness, though, someone who runs off is like fatal. Somewhere around the same time, Wills found Charlie behind a tree eating wild from what little rations remained. After he was confronted, Wills only came to admit this to Robert. His exact punishment isn't entirely clear, but Robert is thought to have at least delivered a few open-hand slaps to Charlie's face. However, one account says that Robert attacked Charlie so fiercely that Charlie feared for his life. By then, things were just coming apart it seemed. In the days that followed, their food situation was forced to 3 of the 4 camps to eat. Then, another few weeks later, by every time the campaign had run out, and all that remained was Robert's beloved horse Billy, who was sacrificed to keep the men going. Then, another 6 days later, the seriousness of the situation finally sank in when Charlie was found dead, likely from malnutrition and sleeping bag. Several months earlier, back in late January 1861, Wright from the supply party finally left in India. He had no idea what soon meant to Robert, but to him it meant about 3 months because that's how much time had passed when he began to track to Cooper Creek. When they did, though, his group wasn't very much better than Robert's. During their travels in late April, 3 of Wright's men also died of malnutrition. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Brady held a vigil at the Cooper Creek camp. The 3 months he was a traveling Wright had already passed, and he remained in the national just in case. Now, just to clarify, because there are several moving pieces, at this point there were 3 groups. The first was Robert's group heading south from the hills on the way to Cooper Creek. The second was William Brady's group staying at Cooper Creek, waiting for Robert to return. And the final was a William Wright's group traveling north from Indy to Cooper Creek with a supply run. Anyway, on April 21st, Brady decided he just couldn't wait any longer to pack up what he could and planned to start heading back to Indy. Before he did, he gathered some food rations and buried them under a tree. Then it's the bark of that tree Brady raised the words of Dig 3 feet northwest, April 21st, 1861. Then, with 6 camels, 12 horses, and most of the food, Brady turned south and started the journey to Indy. Fortunately, on that very same day, just 9 hours after Brady left, Robert, Wills, and John arrived at the Cooper Creek camp. In surveying the area, the 3 discovered the food cache Brady left behind for him, which thankfully had about a month's worth of supplies. Simultaneously, since the day of the trip was the same day Robert, Wills, and John arrived, it was abundantly clear that the 2 men had just missed one another. Curiously, however, Robert believed that they wouldn't be able to catch up with them, and their best chance of survival was to head 150 miles southwest to a place called Mount Holdens. Along the way, they figured their best chance of survival was to run into the Yandru Wanda Aboriginal people who were known to be relative Robert. Shortly before they departed Cooper Creek, Robert buried a weapon of what history now calls the Dig Tree, just in case Brady returned, letting them know where they went. However, crucially to not arouse suspicion of anyone who might come across the Cooper Creek camp, Robert made sure to leave the area around the tree just as how he found it. Another week later, on April 29th, as Brady was traveling south, he came upon Wright's supply party. He then told the others with his men before joining Wright's group to return to Cooper Creek. Even though he had waited much longer than told, he couldn't help but feel like he was standing longer than the others. When they reached Cooper Creek once again on the main, one of the first things Brady did was check the Dig Tree to see if the cache had been dug up. But because Robert had been so careful with the area of the letter, Brady thought the area of the tree was exactly as he left, so they didn't bother digging. So once again, after a few days of waiting with no sign of men, Wright and Brady left Cooper Creek for good and returned to the Navy, and Brady continued on to Melbourne. Meanwhile, after Robert, Wills, and John left Cooper Creek, they didn't get very far. The men were simply too weak from malnutrition to travel. By the end of June, Wills was determined to fish, begged Robert and John to continue on the belly to serve the Aboriginal people. Wills actually died when he was left, and days later, Robert a year after the expedition left Melbourne, Victorian government sent the relief party, which included braving once again Norman to search for the expedition. In mid-September, the relief party came across the Aboriginals, with stunned to find John, who was made to the settlement, taken in as their own. After a day came up, the learning of Robert, Wills, and Charlton, the relief party returned to Melbourne, and obviously the news shocked the city. A commission of inquiry then thoroughly investigated everything that occurred between the expedition party in Melbourne and the death of Robert Wills. And in their report, the commission harshly criticized Robert for splitting up the party up, let alone twice. He also received blame for not keeping a thorough journal of the expedition's travels, as well as failing to provide them with specific and written instructions. The latter is what the commission believed sealed Robert Wills' estate. Had Robert given right more careful when to supply to the treaties, which would have left over since open to interpretation, and had the instructions been more clear, or had Bright been more qualified at all to be the position Robert put it, the supplies would have been waiting accurately to scale again would have saved the lives of Robert Wills. At the end of the official report, the commission pointed out that while we were still splitting blame and criticism to be assigned to the expedition's fate, they still owed them a great debt of gratitude for their bravery and sacrifice. In the aftermath of the expedition, the party was sent to recover bodies of Robert Wills, which would return to Melbourne and rebuild the Victoria's first state funeral. If you made it this far, thanks for tuning in. If you have a story suggestion, feel free to submit it to the form found in the description, and hopefully
How long does it take it to fly a kite structure? The answer is too long. Very natural experience team. We're recently on something that's later on in the community.
in the early days of aviation, the greatest accomplishment a pilot could make was to circumnavigate the globe. A successful attempt could make a pilot's career and give them celebrity status. And many would be successful and earn this respect, but many would not, and instead end up dead or in horrifying situations. This is the Flight of the Atlantis, and as always, viewer discretion is advised. The very first successful circumnavigation of the globe in an airplane took place in 1924 by 4 airmen from the U.S. Army Air Service. In total, this groundbreaking journey would see them fly for 175 days and 26,300 miles, or 42,400 kilometers. During the end of the 1920s and throughout the 1930s, the world saw many more attempts by pilots to make a name for themselves, and the public was just as eager to speculate on these attempts, turning everyday pilots into quasi-celebrities. Well, today, no one would bat an eye at flying on the road. This was a dangerous and daring pursuit in the infancy of aviation that captured the public's imagination. Flying was still new and exciting, and circling the globe was seen as the greatest feat a pilot could accomplish. But for as many successful circumnavigations during the time period as it was, there were plenty more who didn't go as planned. The most infamous among them came in 1937, when aviation pioneer Amelia Earhart set out to become the first female pilot to fly around the globe. Her plane eventually went down near Halifax in the North Pacific Ocean. Her fate has remained a mystery ever since. 5 years before her disappearance, a team of German aviators went to add their names to the list of explorers who circumnavigated the globe. On February 29, 1932, a Junkers W-33 seaplane called Atlantis took off from Cologne, Germany to begin its attempts. Behind the controls were pilot Hans Bertram and co-pilot Eric Thompson. Along for the journey as well as a mechanic, Adolf Klausman, and a photographer who was covering the attempt. Hans was about what you expect a famed pilot of time to be like. He was handsome, charismatic, well-educated, and highly capable as an airman. It was these qualities that made everyone aboard the plane back on Germany, confident that this would be a successful endeavor. This flight wasn't just about circumnavigating the globe. Part of the team's duty was to explore potential world markets for Germany's aviation industry. On top of that, they visited German communities along the way and spread a goodwill back home. As with all flights around the world at the time, the expedition was expected to take quite a while to complete. By the time they reached its 10th week, Hans and the crew had already successfully flown to Italy, Greece, Turkey, India, and Thailand, among other countries. Once they reached Jakarta, Indonesia, the four men decided to split up as Hans wanted to make a side trip. It wasn't necessarily on the way, but Hans figured that while they were in the region, he could make a quick flight to explore parts of Australia. He expected it to be a relatively quick trip, and he elected Klausman to accompany him, while the other two flew to Shanghai, China, where the four planned to rendezvous. After a brief stop to fuel up on May 13th in what is now Timor Barat, which sits between Indonesia and Australia, Hans and Claudia took off from the city of Darwin along the extreme northern coast of Australia around midnight. The trip to Darwin was around 520 miles or 830 kilometers, so somewhere between 5 and 6 hours until the flight time. As the plane flew on its southeast heading, they entered a storm, and it was around this time that Hans realized that they were somehow low on fuel already, likely from fighting the unusually strong headwinds. Because of this, they'd have to make an early and almost emergency landing. Just a little while later, the plane's floats touched down the ocean, and Hans and Claudia were hundreds of miles from their destination. As best as Hans could figure, he thought they were on the east coast of Melville Island, which is just north of Darwin, mainland Australia. However, where they actually ended up was Cape St. Lambert along Australia's Kimberley coast, well to the southwest of both Darwin and Melville Islands. Because Hans was so far off in the destination, they had no idea the trouble they were in. Along the western Australia's 9 regions, Kimberley's the furthest north. Regardless of where you are along the coast, you've got a vast ocean on one side and the barren Australian bush on the other. Kimberley has quite a history that goes back about 65,000 years as well. It's the location of one of Australia's earliest societies where rock runs were discovered at least the very first appearance of the boomerang. Incredibly, geographically, Kimberley is about 3 times larger than England in terms of landmass, including steep mountain ranges and dry grasslands. Where Hans and Claudia ended up was on the side of Kimberley has an expansive landscape of arid, cracked clay. Kimberley also has a prolific wet season because it sits in a tropical monsoon climate, but that period had already passed for 1942. The two had instead arrived at the beginning of the dry season, which coincides with Australian winter, meaning temperatures would not be at their peak. With that said, it's still one of the hottest regions, and you regularly see temperatures over 86 Fahrenheit with 30 Celsius. Then, in any case, after guiding the plane safely ashore, Hans made a note of his fuel readings. According to the gauge, the Atlantis had just 4 gallons of fuel remaining, which wasn't really enough to fly anywhere. Once they were on shore, the men made camp for the night and checked out their surroundings for potential supplies, but all they found was a lot of nothing. And while they weren't in the thick of the Australian bush, they were certainly surrounded by it. Sometime later, while they were trying to get some rest, an Aboriginal man stumbled upon them, possibly come to check out the area after seeing them land nearby. Aboriginal Australians are descendants of these migrants that arrived more than 60,000 years ago and are indigenous to the continent. Depending on location, Aboriginal cultures and languages vary greatly, and when they were approached by the man, the language barrier was immediately clear. The man was friendly, but neither of the aviators could understand it, so the man eventually wandered away and disappeared. Had they known just how desperate the situation was, they may have tried a little harder to communicate with the man. By the next morning, the weather had cleared, and the sun was already starting to turn heat up for the day. Hans had to figure out what to do next, and the only thing he could come up with was try to get as close to Darwin as he could before his fuel ran out. He wasn't even sure the plane had enough fuel to get airborne, but incredibly, after picking up speed and pulling back on the yoke, the Atlantis returned to the sky. Because it was able to guide the Atlantis back to the coastline, once again, Hans and Claudia found themselves stranded on the beach with nothing and no one around. They spent much of that day trying to locate water, but they were unsuccessful in that venture, and the longer they went without it, the more Hans felt like the Aboriginals they encountered the night before. Despite their difficulties understanding early, it still would have been easy to indicate was Hansen of the needed water. Hans regretted leaving the area they camped in overnight, and he convinced Constance that they need to walk their way back in hopes of coming across these same men others from his tribe. As they began to traverse Kimberley's unforgiving landscape, the heat and the hunger and thirst took a massive toll on them. If that wasn't enough, they were surrounded by swarms of flies the entire time, buzzing by their ears and landing on their sweating faces. During this walk, though, luckily they were able to find some water and some berries that were safe to eat. They also had a single pack of cookies brought for the trip to Australia, and they began rationing those, but this did little to satisfy them with becoming intense hunger, and things were about to get much worse. As they continued along the coastline, they came up to an inn which presented them with 2 choices. They could either walk around it and add an untold amount of the track, or they could swim across it. Now, today, Australia has a well-known reputation for the massive crocodiles that inhabit only their northern region. This was not always so familiar to the outside world, and it wasn't known to either Hans or Klausman. The 2 men then stripped down into the water, carrying their clothes over their heads as they waded across the inlet. Suddenly, one of them spotted a dark, scaly figure coming right for them. Both men immediately dropped their clothing and swimming as hard as they could in a desperate attempt to save their lives. Thankfully, the crocodile wasn't interested in putting up too much of a chase and allowed them to make an escape. Reaching safety at the other side of the inlet was what their only stroke of luck since having set the plane down, but the decision to cross the water instead of walking around came at a great price. They were now stranded and lost in searing heat without clothing and their boots. Worse yet, among the items they dropped in their panic of the crocodile were their pistols. This felt like a major turning point for Hans. As long as they had their firearms, they always had a chance to find and secure food for themselves. Without them, the two knew next to nothing about a captured game of starting push. So, naked, barefoot, the two men who had been defeated. They went into deciding the best course of action was to head back to the plane, meaning their swim across the inlet and the loss of all their supplies was completely pointless. They did, however, learn from this and decide to walk inland instead of getting back into the water. It would also have taken the better part of the next 7 days to get back to the plane. During that time, the sun beat down on them, and mosquitoes picked their skin, and when they checked out the area around the plane, they were disheartened to find it exactly as they left it. For the last leg of the trek, they held on to hope that someone had crossed with them who was there waiting for them, but that was unfortunately not the case. By then, they'd been stranded on the Kimberley coast for 13 days with very little food, and now back to the plane, the air was completely different and fresher water. Hans was the kind of guy who always seemed to have an endless supply of energy, and this truth served him well during their attempts to that point, but he was starting to feel weaker and more exhausted as each day passed. He knew that it was only to get worse if they didn't find a better situation fast, so he started thinking of a way to get them practically anywhere else. This caused him to take a closer look at the Atlantic. Their jumpers, doubled from 33 Seawind, had the ability to touch down on land and in water thanks to two large pontoons called floats that are fixed underneath the plane. Each of the floats had 4 airtight compartments that kept the plane buoyant as they could open sources of water landings. Hans wondered if they could hold up against the open ocean too. He then presented this idea to Klaus, and the pair got to work removing one of the floats. Using scrap wood and whatever else he could find, Hans stood the makeshift boat with a crude sail and rudder and with a piece of aluminum to take paddles. As they were wrapping up their construction, the rain shower came through, which gave Hans another idea. He opened another one of the watertight compartments and allowed it to fill with some rainwater. Neither of them knew how long they'd been in the ocean, but they somehow got stuck out there for any length of time. Having some fresh water would be crucial to their survival. Before they set off, Hans also drank whatever water remained from the plane's radiator. Finally and carefully, the men carried the float turned high to the water and hopped with their designated compartments. They then pushed off, but within moments the rudder was ripped off in waves and the sail proved completely worthless. By the time they figured out they were aimless and directionless, the plane float had gotten into the current and was being pulled out to sea. The only way the exhausted men could navigate the float was with their paddles, which were only marginally helpful. Several days would end up passing, the float stuck about 12 miles off the Kimberley coast when one of them saw a large black speck on the horizon. Over the course of minutes, it got bigger and bigger until they realized it was a ship. They were able to stand up in the float compartments, but they did everything they could to draw attention to themselves. The two stood there and shouted and screamed, and their minds were all but certain they would be saved. But then at a distance of about 1,600 feet, the ship passed by them without hesitation. When it was clear the ship was gone and began to disappear into the distance, they slunk back into their compartments. The disappointment was beyond description, and when Hans looked at Klaus, he immediately knew that something was off about it. It was like something changed, but Klausman had broken on the inside. After a while, they continued paddling. Hans had to do much of the work since Klausman was becoming despondent. Even still, for 4 nights, the better part of 5 days after, they paddled before miraculously reaching the northwest of Cape Rainier. Back on solid ground, they rested briefly before Hans had them back on their feet. Still certain they were on Melville Island, Hans felt like they might be able to find civilization if they just walked inland. So for a week, they traveled across the world's most deadly terrain without a stitch of clothing on their bodies or anything on their feet. Soon enough, Hans finally came to the realization that they couldn't be where he thought they were. The distances just didn't make sense. If they were where he thought they were, they should have seen some semblance of civilization. So, once again, the best thing to do was launch to backtrack their way to the coast and find the plane float. After another week of walking, the two men located the plane float and made another disheartening discovery. Their float had somehow gotten damaged in their absence. Hans thought there was a chance he could still keep them above water if he cut out the affected compartment, so they grabbed a pair of tinsmith and was careful not to puncture the neighboring compartment. They managed to carry the float back to the water and hop into it, but they quickly found out that it was no longer even minimally seaworthy. When they got back on the ship, they located a rock ledge overhanging Cape Verde with a shelter under it, and both men collapsed. Almost Almost 4 days after contact with the Atlantis had stopped back in May, the German consul raised the alarm with the Western government, requested a search effort be organized to find the 2 men. Mail planes became search planes, and all ships sailing along the Australian coast were notified to that for a plane for castaways. Additionally, Aboriginal tribes were recruited to assist in finding the men, because no group is more intimately familiar with the land than the country's indigenous people. And incredibly, while searching on foot, one group located a cigarette case with the initials HBO and a handkerchief in the sand. These items were then handed off to the search officials. On June 15th, more than 1 month after disappearing, a search plane located the Atlantis about 99 miles to 160 kilometers from the town of Wyndham, Western Australia. Unfortunately, there was no sign of two missing either, but searchers felt like they were now hot on their trail. At the same time the searchers were actioning up, the will to live had faded from the haunted Clouston. They had sort of come to accept their fate, which they believed was to wait inside a cave-breaker cave for death to find them. But, while lying around close to lifeless on the morning of June 22nd, an Aboriginal man, not the same one they encountered earlier, noticed the 2 men just inside enough the cave and went to investigate. When he reached them, the man was confident that this was who he and many others had been searching for. Hans opened his eyes and squinted upwards as he felt someone watching him. When his vision cleared, he could barely believe what he was witnessing. And unlike the Aboriginal men, Hans and Klaus encountered on their first night, they were able to establish communication. The Aboriginal man had a fish that he eagerly handled, but both men were so weak and dehydrated that they couldn't even chew their own food. The man then helped them by literally chewing that piece of fish, spitting it out, and then hand-feeding them. After some time, with some of their strength returning, the man led them to a well-driven bay where they could camp. Once they got there, he handed Hans 2 tins full of preservatives and 5 pounds of flour. That evening, he also speared a kangaroo they made them before cooking it and feeding them once again. The next morning, 2 more Aboriginal men showed up. The food the night before had done wonders for Hans and Klaus. They were still waiting for their deal. And although each of them was demonstrating different symptoms of mental instability, Hans was loose enough to write a quick note and hand it to one of the men. The night before, the Aboriginal men had fed him, hoping that they increased nearby, so Hans instructed one of them to get the message to him. On the note were a few details about the ceiling and space most where it was located. Then, finally, July 6th, all of the 2 men had just become to illusion. That morning, more Aboriginal people arrived at the Cape Marine camp with supplies sent by the priest, and not long after, the rest of the search party arrived. Just like he had with the man who found them in the cave, Hans accepted them briefly, new brother, and shook each of their hands. In turn, they gave oranges, bread, butter, and cigarettes, which Hans and Klaus immediately began smoking. Both of them were eventually taken to Wyndham. Once they arrived, Klaus was in such bad shape that he had to be carried ashore. In addition to severe dehydration and malnutrition, he still suffered mentally from when he reached his break in the ocean.
This patient will undertake takeoff plan. Our customer is asked, he may handle the takeoff so that you can focus on what truly matters.
Hans then instructed rescuers to get Klaus to the hospital, but despite Hans insisting that he was also fine, he was made to go along too. At the hospital, they were treated to a large breakfast, and Klaus was put to a bed to rest and recover. Hans was certainly better off than his companion, and while he had lost a lot of weight and suffered from dehydration, his condition didn't require him to be hospitalized. From the moment they landed in Cape St. Lambert until they reached the safety of the hospital, more than 50 days had passed. In the aftermath of the ordeal, Hans returned to the site of the Atlantis with another mechanic, and they were able to get the plane more and more. They then flew to Perth, Australia. Klausman, however, was in such bad condition both physically and mentally, he was put aboard a steamship bound for Germany. The newspapers that reported on the incident noted that Klausman suggested making a full recovery, but he never did. He remained in a broken mental state for the rest of his life. Hans, meanwhile, was also mentally traumatized by his experience, but he stayed behind in Australia for a few months, and essentially learned by speaking to him to tell his harrowing survival story. He then went from town to town, giving talks to crowds that were eager to hear what would happen directly from one of the men experiencing it. And this ambition almost cost him his life yet again when he crashed the plane at the airport landing. The Atlantis suffered extensive damage, but Hans managed to escape without any serious injury. In the aftermath as well, during an interview with the reporter, serving a very interested public, Hans was on his way to keep praise of the Aboriginal men who found them at Cape Rainier and those who arrived the next day. Along with having to feed them, ensure they were punished with as much water as they could, the Aboriginal men built what's called a bush hut, which is a small hut constructed with available materials. This was in order to keep clubs from protecting the elements and enforcing health. In addition, in fact, from the moment they encountered the indigenous onset, they finally felt like someone was on their side, which boosted their morale, restored their homes, and leaving them ready for their lives. Holland also gave full credit to men for saving their lives, and so was certain that both of them would have been dead long before the European search party broke them. And until his death in 1993 at the age of 86, Holland would always refer to his Aboriginal saviors as his best friends. If you made it this far, thanks so much for In 1911, 4 men set off by dog sledges across northern Canada, desolate, treacherous, frozen terrain. Somewhere along this journey, things would go horrifying wrong. This is their story. It's hard to really put into words just how, for example, Alaska has a population density of just 1.3 people per square mile, while the Yukon is less than 15% of that at just 0.18. This is because, despite being roughly the same size as Spain and Sweden, Yukon has just 45,000 people that call it today, most of which are in the capital cities. All this is to say that if you were to get dropped at random somewhere in the cold north that is the Yukon, it might feel like you were quite literally the last Yukon on Earth. Now, if you're wondering why the Yukon is so desolate, the answer is fairly simple, and it has to do with the climate and geography. On an average day at a given time of the year, temperatures aren't all that different from the national average, but the Yukon is a place of extremes. When the rest of the country is experiencing what can be described as a bit of a cold snap, chances are the Yukon is nearly uninhabitable. In fact, the village of Snag in the territory holds the record for the lowest temperature ever recorded in North America at minus 81 Fahrenheit or minus 60 degrees Celsius. And incredibly, Snag is even located in the territory's northern regions closer to the Arctic Circle. Then, in terms of geography, the situation is much better. There are several mountain ranges in the territory, one of which, the St. Elias Mountains, are the tallest anywhere in Canada and are essentially impassable glaciers year-round. It's also true of rivers, valleys, bogs, and dense forests. These same dense forests tend to thin out, and the trees are much shorter as you go north into the Arctic Circle, but at the same time that puts you instead in the Arctic tundra, which is even less inhabitable. It's also home to the second largest grizzly bear population in all of Canada, and because of the hot summers and the abundance of fresh water, the mosquitoes are really bad as well. It should come as no surprise that more than 100 years ago, there were fewer people living there, and the number was less than 9,000 across the massive landmass. And as you might imagine, as wired communication like phones have become commonplace in more popular areas of the country, establishing the infrastructure in such an inhospitable place was extremely difficult. In fact, by 1910, there was still none at all, so if you wanted to communicate with anyone at the time, one of the only ways to relay messages was by dog sled. Beginning in 1904, it became a tradition for the Royal Northwest Mounted Police, or NWMP, to guide a dog sled team from Dawson City, Yukon, to form the first of the Northwest Territories with bags of mail correspondence. The leader of this mission was 41-year-old Inspector Francis Joseph Fitzgerald. He was the kind of man who had the kind of credentials you'd expect from someone charged with organizing a 475-mile or 764-kilometer trek across that dangerous territory. He first enlisted in 1888 as a constable in the NWMP, and less than 10 years later, he was part of a small group that established an overland from Edmonton to the Yukon goldfields. Prior to this, outside of the First Nations indigenous people, this group through the Canadian province of British Columbia was a mystery until the team Francis was part of carved it out. In fact, he was so hard and resourceful that he was even responsible for setting a police outpost on Herschel Island along the Yukon's northern coast. He then lived there with almost no contact with the outside world for 6 years. At that point, his spirit with the NWMP decided to reassign him elsewhere since he was too valuable to keep in such a dangerous environment and would be more useful elsewhere. When December of 1910 was approaching, the NWMP commissioner made a slight change to the annual trip to Dawson City to Portland first for that year. Instead of starting in Dawson City, he asked that Francis make the journey in the opposite direction and began the journey to Portland first, which he agreed to.
Show rotor with advanced synthetic technology protects against engine wear.
On December 21st, Francis led a team of 3 sleds pulled by 15 dogs carrying 1,300 pounds of equipment and provisions, as well as 30 pounds of mail. The group also included 3 others: former Constable Sam Carter, who served as the guide, and Constables Richard O'Hara Taylor and George Francis Kinney. Confident they could travel 15 miles a day at least, the men expected to arrive in Dawson City around mid-January. But to do that, they had to successfully traverse the Yukon in the harshest season of the year. As things got underway, the team encountered nothing but good fortune. The temperatures were harsh but typical for the northern Yukon, and they were in the event about 65 miles to 105 kilometers within the first 4 days. Trouble, however, wasn't from behind them, and this should have not been due to deep weather or terrain. Expeditions through the Yukon at the time were only successful as their guides. Sam, who was 41 years old, was a carpenter before he joined the NWFP as a special constable, and just before the expedition, he retired from the wars. Despite this, he was asked to party because it was that he was intimately familiar with the route they'd be taking to Dawson City. In reality, however, Sam had only taken the journey once before and had been in the opposite direction. In addition to that, it was also 4 years earlier. Even still, on December 26th, the men were making great progress and covered 19 miles or 30 kilometers in their first 6 hours of travel that day. But then Sam realized that it was all for nothing. He had been looking for a specific crossing on the Peel River, but he had somehow missed it. And where he had made that mistake wasn't discovered until the team came across a First Nations camp. Without much they could do that night still, the men stayed at the camp that night. The first thing the next morning, Francis Harding Davis asked out Joe. He would help spread the trail of the dogs to beats them to get the team back on the right track. And although this navigation error was initially concerning, the word they felt the previous day when they were lost was gone under SL guidance. The team was back on its excellent pace. They then quickly caught up with where they should have been had they not missed the river crossing. On January 1st, 1911, the group came upon a cabin located along Mountain Creek, which marked the successful completion of their second leg of the journey. This is when Francis made a decision that had disastrous consequences. He paid Sal the $24 he owed him, thanked him for his services, and sent him back home. This was a curious decision for a number of reasons. First and foremost, the patrol hadn't been underway for a full week before Sam made a critical navigation error that cost the team time, and it could have put them in a much worse scenario if they hadn't spent a lot in the first week of camp. They weren't exactly traveling an established road, and there was no signage indicating there were mountains, lakes, and streams that encountered along the way. To successfully lead a team to its destination, the guide had such a deep knowledge of the route that he could descend from one mountain to another before even one tree from another by sight alone. Sam had already shown that he might not have quite that understanding of the area. And second, an extra guide would have also made his staff much more efficient, because he's getting another set of legs breaking a trail for the dog sleds. Essentially, guides would lead on foot ahead of the sleds, and the sleds would follow the tracks left by the guides. This was particularly necessary in deep snow like they were encountering along the route. And finally, another reason why this was puzzling was that a second guide could have kept a lookout for game to supplement their food rations. Dog sleds are noisy and had a tendency to scare away other animals, but guides can travel much more quietly, which confident to them on the team to get a shot on a meal or two. However, either way, Sal and the team parted ways and Mountain Creek and the patrol continued on to Dawson City. Conditions for this also deteriorated near the start of the journey. Winter in the Yukon is already harsh enough, and it's especially temperamental during the winter of 1910 to 1911. The team has battled with heavy snowfall, strong winds that literally hurt their skin, and the average temperature can stay from minus 51 degrees Fahrenheit to minus 46 Celsius. At the very least, Sam managed to guide them in the correct direction for the better part of the next 2 weeks. This, unfortunately, would not much longer. Following along the Little River, Sam was searching for another street known as 4th Street, which was crucial for getting the team to the Richards Mountains. Sam continued leading the patrol south along the Little River, believing that 4th Street was ahead of him. He had actually missed it by 8 miles. This path along the Little River to 4th Street was about 40 miles, which was a trip that should have taken them 2 days. When they realized they were once again lost, none of them knew how far back they had gone. Had they known that only less than a day's trek back to the start of the winter, this wouldn't have been that big of an issue, but Francis continued to cut Sam through, and Sam would end up being further down the Little River. As their predicament became more and more clear, however, Francis had a decision to make. They could either keep trying to locate 4th Street, or they could turn back to Fort McPherson. This was when another crucial mistake was made. Fearing the embarrassment of failure, Francis decided to press on in hopes they'd come across and turn off toward Dawson City eventually. One day then turned into 2, then 2 into 3. By the time Francis decided that the best move was to return to Fort McPherson, the men had wasted 9 days. Thus, 9 more days of food rations just trying to find a creek. By this point, they were more than 26 days into a journey. They brought 30 days worth of food rations, and they weren't even halfway. Finally, on January 18th, they began to trek back to Fort McPherson, was another 250 miles back to camp. All they had left was just 10 pounds of flour and 8 pounds of bacon left for them to share, and for the dogs, only a few pounds of dried fish remained. Somehow this dwindling supply was went unnoticed during one of the week of tracing the traced their tracks in search of bonus fruit. So when the men made camp that night, they supplemented what little they had left by sacrificing one dog for meat. 2 days later, the flour and bacon were gone. Just dried fish, tea, and dogs. As if this wasn't enough to deal with, between heavy snowfall and what was already in the ground, travel was extremely slow if they were able to advance at all. Then on January 24th, the men were faced with temperatures reaching minus 56 Fahrenheit and minus 49 Celsius, but even worse than that, they reached a river crossing. Sand and regiment were then filling in up to their waists, and were in such bad shape after, they had to stop at camp at 11 a.m. Almost every night that followed, one of the dogs was sacrificed to feed the men, and the other dog, who always seemed hesitant to eat what they were being served. Another couple of days later, Richard got sick on January 27th, and by the 30th, all the men were sick. Francis noted in his journal that he believed this was the result of his dog liver. By day 40, the team had barely progressed 100 miles closer to Fort McPherson. The Beale River was still 80 miles away, and this was the most treacherous leg of the journey, one that required them to go over 2 mountains. And even though the men were sacrificing the dogs and they had full bellies, they were in terrible condition. On that last day of January, the skin was peeling off their faces and their lips were chapped to the point of splitting. The cold was taking a significant toll on them, and it just continued to get worse. The temperature dropped to minus 62 Fahrenheit from minus 52 Celsius that day, making travel impossible. They were also weak and exhausted too, not so much from the lack of food, but from the lack of nutrition. And Mr. Bond telling the Jews felt like this. Find out figures with key attention. The scurvy, which the condition caused by lack of vitamin C, and said, had been frostbite. Still, Francis Samel remained positive through the ordeal, noting in his journal on February 3rd that he believed they were only about 100 miles from Fort McPherson and that they'd make it there alive. Hundreds of miles away, in Dawson City, those expecting a patrol weren't terribly concerned that they were making right. Considering the harshness of that winter and the difficult travel to become the best of winter conditions, the delay was almost to be expected. Not only that, but this trek had been completed successfully each year since 1904, so there was little reason in early February to doubt that Francis and the rest of the team would show up eventually. Everything changed, however, when the Sal arrived in Dawson City around the middle of the month. After he was released from duty by Francis, the Sal returned to his camp and then traveled with the others to Dawson City, thinking the time and arriving without issue. He inquired about the patrol he had done, believed that they had been there for weeks, but he was shocked to learn that they were still unaccounted for. This finally raised the alarm in the city, and an NWMB relief party was formed, but it would take some time to prepare and stock up on the necessary supplies. It wasn't until the last day of February that the party was relieved, and they set off with a highly qualified guide in the direction of Fort McPherson. For almost a month, the relief party encountered and endured the same brutal conditions that Francis and his team faced, but because they were putting on track, they were able to keep a steady pace throughout the journey. Then, on March 21st, one of them spotted what appeared to be a campsite ahead. As they approached it, it was clear that it had been there for a while, but they were initially encouraged that they were catching up to where Francis' patrol was. It wasn't until they reached the campsite that hope for successful rescue vanished. What they found was a burned out fire with a kettle in the middle of it. Inside the kettle was a leather hardened sled which the men had started eating after the rations ran out and the dogs were gone. Then, next to the dead campfire were the bodies of George and Richard. It was clear that George had passed away from starvation, but not Richard. He instead had a gunshot wound to the side of his head. This was a horrific find that started to piece together the story of what the patrol faced, but a clearer picture would be formed the next day. That's when the relief party found Sam's body a few hundred yards from him was Francis. Both died of exposure and starvation just 25 miles or 40 kilometers from the safety of Fort McPherson. Because of the way their bodies were positioned, it was apparent that Francis was the last surviving member of the team. Sam's body had been laid out dignity with his hand entering on February 5th. After such an optimistic entry on February 5th, whatever they experienced in the next 48 hours caused Francis to confront that he had lost the last of the afternoon. He wrote the crime in his final entry before Elbright placed the blame on himself for trusting Sam after he initially got the loss. Based on the date of the entry as well, the police party realized the men were likely dead for 2 weeks before they could have left Dawson City. Also, on a page torn from the journal that was found on his body, Francis wrote a short will that left all of his possessions to his mother, who lived in Ireland. The relief party then gathered up the bodies of the men and placed them on their steps with relative ease, since each of them weighed just 100 pounds at the time of their deaths. All 4 of them were left in Fulton Pearson, where they were buried side by side. In all, the men were estimated to have traveled about 620 miles or 1,000 kilometers over the course of 53 days during one of the coldest winters on record. Their tragedy is now known as the loss of the troll. In the aftermath of the incident, several causes important outcomes were determined, and most of them was placed on Francis. Many believe he was overconfident, and his evil got away with rash decision-making. Like, for example, instead of turning back to Fort McPherson when he should have, he decided to continue searching for forest groups for far longer than was safe or responsible. In preparation for the journey as well, he didn't account for the New York Festival of rations or potential delay, and he failed to notice how much their supply had been used until it was too late to begin reducing rations. On top of that, his decision to partake in the sound was determined to be short-sighted and his constant safety was placed. All of these things combined for a worst-case scenario for the patrol. In the years that followed, from 1911 to 1924, the patrol continued to run using lessons learned from the lost patrol. Each of the future patrols always hired a native guide, and food and supply caches were established along the way just in case. Gatherings were also built from map and forced creek trails clearly marked to receive possible events. These adjustments are credited for the remainder of the patrol, not as preventing another tragic incident. If you made it this far, thanks so much for watching. As tragic and brutal as this story was, these types of expeditions, treacherous conditions are some.
The new teaching Luis's Piano Bricks Blizzard Tree has bliss in every bite.
In the past 2 centuries, just a few areas left on Earth able to be full of explorers. These were the Arctic, the Antarctic, the Northeast, and Northwest passages. Many of the world's greatest explorers would go on to make equally great attempts to explore and map these areas, but for a time, each of them remained unconquered. This caused some to shift their attention to the massive frozen areas around northern Greenland, and expeditions began to be planned. One of these expeditions would go on to Europe to prolonged and brutal conditions in recorded history. This is their story, and as such, viewer discretion is strongly advised. Up until the mid-1800s, countries were determined to find a route from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific from the north, known as the Northwest Passage. This proved to be more difficult than anticipated, and after multiple attempts to find it, the idea was sort of abandoned. But the venture gave explorers a new taste for Arctic exploration and the idea of reaching the North Pole. Not only that, the general public fascination with the Arctic had reached all-time highs, and as if in response to this demand, expeditions were then sent to the unknown regions north of Greenland to explore the geographic top of the world. And the United States wasn't about to sit idly by while other countries continued exploring, so in 1881, Congress passed the Sundry Civil Bill. This devoted 25,000 to an expedition that would gather data and record observations from the Arctic over a 2-year period. By that summer, the U.S. Army Lieutenant Civil War Officer Adolphus Green reported to lead this ambitious and dangerous mission. Adolphus Green was a native of Newbury, Massachusetts, and after enlisting in the Union Army, worked his way up to the rank of first sergeant and led his men in several wars with iconic clashes. During his wars with the Adolphus was shot in 2 different battles that would take much more time to take him down for long. Because unlike many of its fellow officers, Adolphus wasn't the type of officer with a mind to capture strategy and tactics. On the contrary, he was a fighter through and through, and his men with discipline and courage. So in terms of bravery and leadership, there were few better to oversee the expedition, but from the standpoint of Arctic experience, Adolphus had none. However, as is often the case with these expeditions, the military did see this as something that should keep them completing. The Greeley expedition, as it became known, had several main goals set forth by the military. The first was to make scientific discoveries, recordings, and readings for an extended period of time. The second was to establish a research station, and the third was to claim the record for the farthest north, which was the title the British had held for decades. On July 7, 1881, the crew boarded the steamship the Proteus in St. John's, Newfoundland, and set a northward course. The Proteus then made several stops along the way to its targeted destination, Lady Franklin Bay, located at the extreme northwest of Greenland. During stops in the other part of Greenland, the expedition of Doctor and 2 infant sled runners, bringing the total number of expedition members to 25 before setting off to the final leg of their journey. About a month after it first left St. John, the Proteus arrived in Lady Franklin Bay, and the crew immediately began unloading 350 tons of food rations and supplies. Geographically, the expedition was by then 600 miles or 965 kilometers from the nearest civilization, and while there were plans in place for a resupply ship the following summer, the unpredictability and severity of the Arctic conditions hardly made that a guarantee. As a result, the expedition had to produce everything they needed for 2 years just in case. Finally, after resupplying, the Proteus sailed back to St. John's, and the expedition team began constructing a research station. When it was finished, they dubbed it Fort Concord. With all of the setup work complete, the team began to work studying their surroundings. From their base, there really wasn't all that much to see. On one side of the fort was ice, and on the other side was the ocean. And after setting off on the day-long excursions, the expedition found some of the most incredible scenery on Earth. Everything from frozen fjords to lakes, mountains, bays, and islands. They've gone to document everything they came across. The coastline was lots of traces and mountains, and they even came across abandoned Indian villages. And while some expedition members were documenting observations, others were taking measurements related to weather and climate. For these first few months, the expedition proved fruitful, and Adolphus was feeling good about all the information and data they'd be able to share on their return to the West. Several months later, the Arctic winter came in early October. On the 15th, the sun set for the final time for the next 137 days. The darkness, however, did nothing to damage the expedition's experience. Like, for example, celebrating Thanksgiving, the men put together a field day of sorts that included a variety of competitions with prizes like preserved peaches, tobacco, and rum. There was a snowshoe race, a 100-yard dash across the ice, and even a rifle shooting contest. Unfortunately, though, due to the worsening winter weather as December rolled around, the expedition members were stuck inside for less than a season, and this activity started to wear the crews down. But despite this, they let over these slow months, and when the sun returned to the Arctic in March of 1882, the team was eager to get back to exploration. Adolphus then organized 2 separate excursions, placing Dr. Octavius Davy in charge of one team and Lieutenant James Locke with the helm of the other. James agreed to head up the coast on the Greenland side of Lady Franklin Bay, Dr. Davy's team would go north along the coast of the Elephant Island. And while the excursions were planned in the name of science, Adolphus added a little bit of competition to them. He tasked both teams with setting a new record for farthest north, and the first group to do it would have bragging rights and immortality in history books. The excursion team then left Fort Concord on March 19th and began the long journey northward, but after 4 weeks, Dr. Davy's team came across a dangerous ice pack and could go no further. They had also braved temperatures as low as minus 52 degrees Fahrenheit or minus 47 Celsius, only to be turned back well short of farthest north. James's group, however, kept going. On May 13th, almost 2 months after their departure, reached 83 degrees, 23 minutes, and 8 seconds, setting the new world record for the farthest north. The team had gone so far, in fact, that they came 4 miles closer to the North Pole and the Explorer before them. Finally, on July 1st, the rest of the expedition watched as James's team returned to Fort Concord victorious and just in time for the resupply ship to show up, which was expected any day. In the days that followed, Adolphus gathered up the expedition's letters, notes, observations, and measurements and ready them to be handed off to the resupply ship. They would, in return, provide the team with more food and letters from home. About a week after James' crew arrived back in Fort Concord, a ship known as Neptune left St. John's. Aboard this ship was about 8 tons of food, and while the expedition team was doing well with its rations for the previous year, the extra supply couldn't have their inventory. When the Neptune left Newfoundland, however, they did so rather late in the summer, and winter in the Arctic can roll in at any time, so the resupply effort was at great risk of not being completed. And sure enough, as the Neptune approached Kennedy Channel between Ellesmere Island to the west and Greenland to the east, the ship encountered a large ice field that it just couldn't navigate through. Fortunately, there was a contingency plan in place that Adolphus was aware of. If for any reason the resupply ship couldn't make it to Fort Concord, it would instead dock at Cape Sabine, about 240 miles to the south, and leave the supply boat there. So when it was clear to the captain of Neptune that reaching Fort Concord would be impossible, it steamed off Cape Sabine, dropped off the supplies, and began its return trip to St. John's. Back at Fort Concord, the wait for the resupply ship was wearing up the expedition team, and cracks started to form. On July 20th, the contract that Dr. Davy agreed to was up, and he informed Adolphus that he wasn't going to renew it. He did agree to remain with the team and assist with any medical issues and needs, but he no longer wanted to be a part of the exploration part of the mission. Upon hearing this, though, Adolphus flew into a rage and began threatening Dr. Pavey, demanding that he give Adolphus all of his journals and records. But Dr. Pavey refused the order. With that, Adolphus informed the doctor that he was facing court-martial back in the U.S. when the expedition was over. To Adolphus, Dr. Pavey's refusal to continue the exploration was akin to desertion. And unfortunately, this was just the first of many problems the expedition would face. By August, the expedition team accepted that the resupply ship Earth's reason of so hundreds was now so they could see walking the 240 miles to Cape Sabine at the time and retrieve the dog was unrealistic. Another Arctic winter then set in, and for the most part, conditions allowed the team to continue exploring and observing the region. The length of time they had been living there had worn down morale. Every day felt the same, and the seemingly endless winter darkness was depressing. There were same fun competitions and holiday observations from the year before, absolutely games, and were replaced instead by a longing for home. At the same time, all the people get to leave next to like the winter and the Arctic spring until they get picked up. Finally, in June of 1883, the team tasked with picking up the Great Expedition was formed and left St. John's, led by U.S. Navy Lieutenant Ernest Galligan at the helm of the Proteus. And incredibly, like Adolphus, Ernest had no experience in the Arctic. In less than a month's time, this would be a disaster. On July 22nd, and once again, late in the summer season for the region, the Proteus reached Smith Sound, just south of Cape Sabine, when it encountered a large ice field, just like the Neptune had. And unfamiliar with the capabilities of the Proteus ice or lack thereof, Ernest pushed the ship into the ice field, but because the ship wasn't designed to break large ice sheets, it eventually got stuck. When it did, the surrounding ice closed around, completely crushing it and forcing the Proteus and its crew to abandon the ship. They then watched from safety lifeboats as the Proteus was chewed up by the ice and eventually swallowed up by the ocean. This began 2 separate ordeals. Ernest's crew was now stranded in lifeboats in the middle of the ice, and unbeknownst to the crew of the expedition, they were now stuck in the Arctic and would not be picked up in created land. For 40 days afterwards, the crew of the Proteus managed to endure floating in subarctic waters until they were spotted and picked up by a whaling ship. All the men aboard were then returned safely to the United States. The members of the Greeley expedition, however, were far from safe. In early August of 1883, Adolphus realized that something must have happened and they weren't going to be picked up, which put him in the top spot. The food they brought 2 years earlier was about to run out, and he never sent any part of the team to Cape Sabine to retrieve what was dropped off by the Neptune. Once again, however, the expedition found fortune in a contingency plan. Before Adolphus and his crew set out on August 25th, about 2 weeks after leaving the port, they landed on Washington Irvine, which was about halfway up to Cape Sabine. On the shore, they were surprised to discover a cache of supplies, and unfortunately, on further inspection, some boat had been dropped off their 13-mile expedition by the English, and all of the food was rotten gold. So, after a brief stay on the island, the expedition team continued to sail southward, each passing getting their food ration proportion smaller and smaller. Whether they knew it or not, this was one of the course between their guilt-threatened malnutrition and starvation. Even worse, on September 10th, the boats became trapped in an ice floe. This left them with no choice but to abandon it. They would have to make do living on a literal ice sheet in hopes that the crowd would carry them to Cape Sabine. Around that time, the news of the sinking of the Proteus made the U.S. and the media went into a frenzy, each news source speculating on a different fate expedition. In spite of all this, the military and the U.S. Navy insisted that their hands were tied until the Arctic winter passed, so they did nothing. Upon learning about this inaction, Adolphus and his wife Henrietta wrote to the military and implored officials to begin planning another expedition to rescue her husband and the rest of the team. In response, however, the reply to the team was curt and concise.
Franchise continued.